Hey, what's going on, sports fans? This is Sean with boxingandbasketball.com here with my co host, the one and only Matthew Rayner. What's going on, Matthew?
Hey, not much. Usually I'm running a couple minutes late. I was running a couple minutes early today, so I rushed home for my favorite part of the week.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Man, I tell you what, me and Matthew been having a blast since we started January 1st. Man, we're getting more and more live streams, we're getting more and more viewers. So we definitely appreciate everybody that comes out and supports, and especially the comments. Matthew be ready to get y'all when he read that comment section.
Be nice.
All right, so Matthew, we're going to start it off with topic number one. The league has just announced that Luka won Western Conference Player of the Month after going 15-2 with the Lakers. And the wild part is he was also Defensive Player of the Month nominee, averaging 2.3 steals a night. Jalen Johnson, on the other hand, won the East Award for the first time in his career after going 11-2 with the Hawks and averaging 22 with 8.5 and 8.5. So, Matthew, which of these two performances was more impressive over the course of a single month?
I think, you could look at Jalen Johnson and say, it's kind of coming out of nowhere. He's leading his team. He's doing good things. Good for him. The Hawks are surging. But if you're comparing between the two, I think you're going to give it to Luka scoring 600 points in a month. And I'm making it a
True.
point to be a little nicer to Luka because I was rewatching our episode the other day, and if you didn't
Uh-huh.
know any better, you would think I was a Luka hater. And so let's give credit where credit is due. To score 600 points in a month is crazy. And I know what I keep saying is, okay, but you're making the offense too one-dimensional come playoff time, and it's not going to work in the playoffs when teams lock in on Luka.
Yeah.
But let me stop that because I haven't seen Luka and the Lakers in the playoffs yet. We don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
So let's see what the first round looks like. If they come out in the first round and Luka's still giving them 35 every night, they're winning games,
Right.
they come out of the first round easily, then maybe this Luka dominated offense is onto something. Because I just want to present the other side because I keep saying, oh yeah, once teams sell out to get Luka in the first round, it's over. But that's not necessarily the case. He's a very talented player.
Uh-huh.
He's making a late push for MVP. So I'm taking Luka's 600 points in March over Jalen Johnson. But Jesus, man, the way like Jalen Johnson's game has developed, and when you
Yeah.
take a 6'8" small forward that can also play the four, that also starting to make their shots, in addition to playing good defense, in addition to being athletic, being able to run at the rim, get some dunks, make moves in transition. I love what Jalen Johnson can do. And I think the Hawks love what Jalen Johnson can do because if you look at it,
Uh-huh.
we talk about how hot the Spurs are. We talk about how hot the
Uh-huh.
Hornets were. The
Yep.
Hawks, man, I'm looking at their record. I'm counting like 15, 16, and 2. Or what do I
Yeah.
got here? I got 14, 17, and 2. 17
Yeah.
and 2 over the last 19. But here's the crazy part, Sean.
And it
Anytime.
wasn't it was it wasn't this right around the time Kaminga came?
Yeah, but I don't think
Okay.
you can credit all that. I mean, Kaminga,
Chemistry. It's not so much Kaminga's done, it's the chemistry,
yeah,
the
and
flow.
Kaminga has probably played like half of these games, if that. But yeah, I mean the chemistry is definitely there. But my only caveat to that, Sean, is that obviously I put my chips on the table. I watch the Kings games, I watch the Spurs
Yep.
games, I watch every other team when they play those two teams. So I see everyone twice a year. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't watch every single Hawks game, but every time we talk about the Hawks, it be the Hawks' own fans coming onto our chat to say, "Oh no, we're not legit. We're not for real. You're not watching the games. No, this team's not getting anywhere." So I don't understand, Sean. We put some praise on the Hawks, and the Hawks brigade comes in to tell us, "No, no, no, our team is actually bad." So I'm not sure what's going on with the Hawks, but I'm going to
So,
make it a
but Matthew, is it a wolf in sheep's clothing? Is it really their fans? Because I think Atlanta has some diehard fans. I think it's other fans from other cities and stuff that's just hating on Atlanta.
Well, I mean, if they're doing that, then they're coming on our comments pretending to be Atlanta Hawks fans. That seems like a lot of work to make a YouTube account, pretend to
Yeah.
be Atlanta Hawks fans and come on to some random podcast. But I swear, every time we talk about Atlanta, it'd be Atlanta's own fans telling us, hey, Sean and Matthew, slow down, slow down. We're not for real. So
Yeah.
I need to watch some Hawks games more to determine it for myself, because the fans of Atlanta, according to our chat, aren't sold on this.
Is it a thing, Matthew, that Atlanta has been let down so many times when they get to the playoffs that they're like, they don't want to jinx it? You think it might be that?
Yeah, I think this city's probably seen so many 50 and 32, 48 and 34 type teams that are kind of
Uh-huh.
contenders, but then come into the playoffs and get obliterated. So I think you're
Right.
onto something there. I think there's a little bit of that.
Right. And what's remarkable about Luka's March is how complete it was, Matthew. So he beat out SGA, Wemby, Joker, Kawhi, Murray, and KD for the award, all of them in the same month. And the steals number is the hidden part of the story, right? 2.3 per night puts him in an on-ball disruption territory, which completely flips the narrative about his defense. Remember, everybody talked about his defense before. So when Luka is locked in on both ends, there's an argument that right now he's one of the best players in the league playing both sides.
Steals is a misleading defensive stat, especially because if you're
Okay.
someone like Luka that's going to be playing 35, 36 minutes a night, like you could be a bad defender but sell out a couple times a game and get some steals. And everything I've seen with the eyeball test with Luka is that he's not a great defender. But like you know, my favorite player obviously is Westbrook, and you know, in his prime, because now he's gotten better at defense, but in his prime, you know, he would fall asleep when he was off ball on defense. Then he would make up for it by selling out to get a couple steals a game. So his defensive numbers always looked pretty good, even when the defense wasn't necessarily there. So when you're a star player playing 36 minutes a game and you get leeway on defense, you know, those steals aren't like Dyson Daniels steals. Those steals aren't like Jose Alvarado steals. Like, you know, there's not really an art to it except for being out there and having the leeway to play free because you're the superstar. So I'm not ready to, you know, I'm not ready to call him the next Mutombo because he's averaging, you know, 2 or 3 steals a game. You know, he's not, that's not Mutombo. That's not who's a good perimeter defender. That's probably not the best comparison. You know, that's not Matisse Thybulle out there. That's not Andre Roberson out there on defense.
Yeah.
But any you know, if he can give you 2 steals and those steals lead to 4 points on the other side because he's taking it in transition, of course with him it probably leads to 6 because he's probably getting the whistle too because, you know, he's got the best whistle in the league. Yeah, no, I mean he had a good month, but Jokic.
All right, Matthew,
Yeah.
let me say this though. Could some of his defensive playing and steals, because I had bookmarked this the other day, they have posted that since the end of last season, Luka has lost close to a total of 38, almost 40 pounds. I mean, him being a little bit quicker on his feet with the weight loss, I mean, could that be contributing to how well he is playing defense versus before he was overweight and he just didn't have the speed to get those steals?
I mean, that could be it, but it's also kind of his fault. You know, he's one of the best players in the league. He's in his mid-20s. What's he doing being over 40 pounds over his ideal playing weight? So, yeah, it probably has a little to do with that, but what was going on with them other years where he was coming in that far above his playing weight to where he couldn't he couldn't squeeze out a couple more steals because, you know, he was, you know, flat-footed or something. So yeah, that could be it. But and I would just stress that even though Luka had this incredible offensive outburst this month, a lot of other guys had good months. SGA was consistent all throughout. You know, his 20-point streak is still going. You know, he's leading the best team in the world right now. Wemby had 2 40 and 10 games in a row, and it wasn't 40 and 10, 40 and 11. It was like, you know, 40 and 15, 40 and 18. So Wemby's doing incredible things. Jokic had a triple-double every time I looked at the box score this month. And, yeah, I mean, all them guys are balling out. So it's really pick your poison. So even having the month that he had, I think he's pretty much still consensus number 3 on the MVP chase just because Wemby and SGA got so far ahead of the pack this month and all the other months.
And Matthew, that's exactly why you want to be part of the board of writers to pick these players and where they fall at.
I'm picking Wemby. I'm picking Wemby.
All right. Well, speaking of Wemby, we're gonna move on to topic number 2. Victor Wembanyama took home the March Defensive Player of the Month award, his 3rd consecutive month winning it after dropping 56 blocks in March alone, leading the NBA. He had 10 games with 4 more blocks, 4 straight games with 15 plus rebounds, and Asura Thompson won it for the East for Detroit. So, Matthew, at this point, is Wemby's a Defensive Player of the Year lock, the most automatic award in the league right now?
Yes. But he's only played 61 games. The Spurs have 6 games left. Assuming he plays tonight, after tonight, he's going to have to play 3 of the next 5. So it's just, can you get to 65? Because once you get to 65, it's finally locked in. Finally, we can end this tyranny. I know Evan Mobley won it last year, but finally we could end this Gobert tyranny because, Wemby should have won it. Wemby should have won it every year he's been in the league, but if not for, not playing the games, or I think his first year he played the games, but they didn't want to give it to him over Rudy because, whatever. They all love giving this award to Rudy for some reason, even though there's major games where teams go small and Rudy gets played off the court, which I haven't been seeing happen to Wemby. Wemby's defensive impact, Sean, is so I know this is the hot topic among like writers and stuff, but it's so true that if you could properly quantify his defensive impact, the MVP race wouldn't even be close. But the reason SGA is winning or it's close, whatever, is because let's say SGA is 3 times better than Wemby on offense. Wemby's exponentially better than maybe any other player in history on defense in terms of just how just him standing in the middle makes players that would go for a layup or dunk just completely avoid the paint. The new kind of highlights.
So I'm going to say, so Matthew, so let me even segue that in for you, right? So just to follow it up, the number that should reframe everything is his defensive rating of 99.8 in March, 2nd in the entire NBA. So that means with Wemby on the floor, opponents are barely cracking 100 points per 100 possessions. And it's not just shot blocking, like you said, it's the gravity. He's contested 11.6 shots per game, which means even shots he doesn't block, guys are changing midair. You literally cannot scheme around him.
And the shots he doesn't block, he contests, but the shots he doesn't contest are because the shot never gets put up in the first place because they're so scarce. So that 11.6 doesn't even do it justice because there's probably like 11.6 plus 15 more shots that didn't get taken just because he was there. Because guys are completely running out of the paint, passing on shots, passing on floaters, passing on layups just because they see Wemby nearby. And honestly, that's been my new favorite kind of highlight to watch. Not his dunks, not his blocks. My new favorite Wemby highlight to watch are ones where you see guys go like this, but then don't shoot and completely get out of the paint or pass the ball off because the shots they already see Wemby there and they're like, no, I'm not making this, so I might as well not even do anything with this.
So Matthew, why don't people, like when we grew up and we played basketball, right? You know how embarrassing it is to get your shot blocked, right? Everybody, oh, he got his shot blocked. Ooh. But for the NBA, why would anybody even care knowing the caliber of player that Wemby is? Why care? I'd rather go for it and get blocked than to like, should I put it up? And just go for it. If you get blocked, you get blocked.
Because you go for it and you are going to get blocked. Like statistically, it's just a bad shot. It doesn't have to be their pride or their ego or whatever. Statistically, you better be scared because if you put that shot up, it's just going to get blocked. So you might as well pass out. You might as well pump fake. You might as well, but even a pump fake, because you can get Wemby, but his length is so crazy that he can actually still block you, even if you're like 3 feet ahead of him. So, I mean, it's something we've never seen before. And one thing that I saw a tweet about this other day, and I have kind of noticed it in the games, is that Wemby's such a disciplined player. When people think about block shots, maybe sometimes they think about like a Hassan Whiteside block shot where you just swat that shit out of bounds. And it's like, who cares? Because the other team still has the ball. Wemby, and I don't remember exactly what the tweet said, but the tweet said the majority of Wemby's blocks are controlled by Wemby. So not only is he blocking them, he's coming down with the rebound too. So he's
Right.
ensuring the possession for the Spurs instead of just swatting that shit out of bounds.
Yeah.
So think about how smart that is. Think about how disciplined he is. Think about just how like he's seen the game kind of at a different level. So he's blocking these shots. He's saving the possession. He's impacting every single defensive possession. So I just think his defense is just so exponentially better than anything we're seeing right now, that you add that to a guy that's averaging almost 25 points a game, a guy that's averaging 50% from the field, 35% from three for a big man. For me, it's like maybe I feel like I'm taking crazy pills of that he's not the runaway MVP. But SGA is a talented cat too. He's on the best.
You think it's more or less SGA is getting it? Like you said, when you look at all the credentials that Wemby has, right? All the things he can do all along. He's even a point guard, can drop these, right? Do you think SGA is kind of like the island AI, Allen Iverson? Not that he's playing like him and can cross people up, but people are amazed at the height that he's doing it at. Just like they give Steph, I'm not saying Steph ain't one of the greatest shooters, but when they look at Steph and his height and what he can do at that height, do you think SGA is getting that same kind of treatment because of his height and what he's able to do? Well, versus people expect Wemby to do something like that at his height.
Yeah, but I mean, SGA is tall for his position. He's versatile, he's rangy, but I think what they're really giving credit to is that he's the best player on the best team. So you give a little deference to that person. He's your defending MVP, he's your defending champion. So it would make sense that if he's still the best player on the best team, that he would be the favorite to be your next champion and be your next MVP. So I see why people are showing him deference, but I think with what Wemby's doing on the defensive end, it's so special. And if we give SGA the MVP this year, then we come back in a few weeks and see that the Spurs beat the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, I don't think you'll see that result in the MVP race again, because I think sometimes that's what the voters want. They want to see the young buck go prove it. So I think it's likely Wemby doesn't win the MVP this year, but I think that if he doesn't, it's going to make for very interesting, assuming there's no upsets, a very interesting conference finals between the Thunder and the Spurs.
Okay, got you. All right, fans, we're going to move on to topic number 3. So listen, we talked about this the other day about Jaylen Brown and his Achilles heel and his timetable to return, whether, he needs to sit out, get ready for the first round. But forget the Achilles scare. Jaylen Brown went out last night and dropped 43 points, scoring 20 in the first quarter alone. Tatum added 25 points, 18 rebounds, 11 assists. The Celtics put up 147 points on one of the league's better defensive teams. Matthew, is this Boston team as dangerous as any team in the East right now?
Man, we were talking about how it's going to be hard to integrate the two stars if Brown's out for an extended period of time. Mm-hmm. Not only was he not out for an extended period of time, he's clearly not laboring out there at all. To be out there to go 17 for 29, 43 points, and to put 147 on Miami, a team we were talking about their defensive principles and how they're always going to be tough on defense because they're well coached on defense. I mean, no, it's an amazing performance. You got to like it if you're Boston. You got to like also that Tatum with the triple-double is finding ways to impact the game, even without scoring. And it's going to be hard. There's going to be a lot of your turn, my turn. I'm the 1A, you're the 1A. Who's the 1A with Tatum and Brown? But you like to see on a night where Brown really has it going, you like to see Tatum impacting the game in a whole bunch of different ways. And what do we see from Tatum? 18 rebounds. I wonder if that's a career high for him, because 18 rebounds, that's a hell of a lot for a small forward. So he's saying, hey, Jaylen, this is your night tonight. I'm going to chip in a little. I'm still going to give you a cool 25, but I'm going to do everything else. 18 rebounds, 11 assists with only 2 turnovers and 2 steals. So, if Jason Tatum can find ways to impact the game like this on nights where Jaylen Brown's carrying the scoring load, this is a dangerous team, man. It's a very dangerous team.
Right. And then on top of that, Matthew, the medical storyline makes this even more significant, right? Because Brown went from listed as questionable with the Achilles tendonitis to dropping the 43 points, like I said, in his return game. But the real tell is his explosiveness. He wasn't nursing it at all. He was attacking in the first 5 minutes. And for Boston, the timing is everything, right? Because you're getting Brown healthy and locked in with 2 weeks left. It means he goes into the playoffs with rhythm. He goes in with confidence and not rust, right? So that 147-point output is also a signal for us, right? When their offense opens up, nobody in the East can match their firepower.
Yeah. You wonder how bad the injury actually was for a guy to only miss. I don't have it right in front of me. I think he only missed 2 games between 3/3. Yeah, he missed 2 games against the Hornets and against the Hawks, where they went 1-1. Or excuse me, against the Hawks and the Hornets, where they actually went 2-0 with Brown out. Then he came back against the Hawks, had a horrible game, 9-29 from the field. Putting up a few bricks there, but that sometimes that happens when you come back from an injury. You got to get your sea legs back under you. But we're here talking about how this is like a major thing. But for a guy to only miss 2 games, come back and score 43 points, 17-29. That's ultra high efficiency. Very high true shooting numbers. So it looks like on that front, false alarm. I can't believe we spent 10 minutes talking about it the other day. Just go back to that show, delete it. There's no point because if he's that healthy, then it's fine. Then you don't have to talk about what happens if he sits for a week and then Tatum has the best games ever. Then they're reintegrating. Forget all that. It looks like what they're going to have to do, since they did it all year. It looks like they're probably going to ride Jaylen Brown as the 1A. And Tatum, it's like, I'm not saying Jaylen Brown's the permanent 1A. Maybe next year you get in training camp with both of them back and Tatum shining and he's kind of back to being, the lead in that organization. But for a year where you rode Jaylen Brown the whole year to the point where he's a dark horse MVP candidate, not someone that's actually going to win it, but is going to be kind of like right there, that third place guy chasing, similar to, what was it, 18-19 when it was James Harden and Giannis all year. But, you had Paul George at third place kind of nipping at their heels the whole time that year, where it's like, okay, that guy's not going to win the trophy, but he's right there in the conversation. And so it feels like Brown is going to have to be the 1A if they're going to have cohesion, team unity, all of that. Because, I think maybe over the course of an offseason, you could work Tatum back into being the leadiest of the lead dogs, whoever you want it to be. But in April,
the one that got Kobe Bryant's blessings.
Exactly. But in April of a season where you've rode Jaylen Brown to the second best record in the East, I think you got to keep riding Brown because you don't want to mess up the chemistry.
Right. Okay. And what we're going to do, Matthew, we're going to actually segue into topic number 4. You talked about being number 2, but who's number 1 in the East, Matthew?
The Detroit Pistons.
That's right. So Shams is reporting that Detroit is internally optimistic that Cade Cunningham can return from the collapsed lung in time for the first round. So the Pistons reevaluate him. They're going to do that in about 1 week. And with the playoffs starting on April 19th, the window is tight, but it's real, right? Detroit went 6-2 without him, though, Matthew. So my question is, does Cade coming back actually make the Pistons scarier, or have they already proven they can compete without him?
Oh, 100% it makes them scarier. I mean, they've proven they can hold their own without him, but that he's the engine that makes the whole team move. Like, we were talking about how we've had this Danish Jenkins explosion.
Danish Jenkins again.
Yeah, we've talked about how he's averaged 20 since Cade's been gone, but you don't want to be counting on that going into the playoffs. Like when you got to play killers, like when you got to play the Celtics, or maybe against some of them teams, against the Magic, I guess Danish Jenkins could be your point guard because the Magic going to let you score 31 in a row and just keep turning it over and coughing it up. Yes, I mean, against some teams, you can risk not having Cade, but against once you get to that second round, then moving forward, because if you're the Pistons, obviously the goal is to be playing into June. You need Cade there because we're talking about Brown and Tatum like a 1A, 1B thing. But in the case of Cunningham, he is the team. A lot of nights he's their leading point guy, their leading rebound guy, their leading assist guy, and their leading steal guy. So, he's one of those like Swiss Army knife type players where he can impact the game in so many different ways.
Yeah.
For him to not be there is it's huge because you're not just missing scoring, you're missing a little bit of everything. In addition to missing your leader, your calm, cool, collected, young MVP candidate. So you want to get him back in there. I guess if it's the first round, it's the first round. It might be kind of nice to get him in like the last regular season game or the last 2 regular season games, just to get your sea legs going into the playoffs. But also if you're the Pistons, you hope for a little bit of luck in the play-in, and I think you kind of hope for Orlando. Yeah. Well, I think you hope for Orlando, or you hope for maybe a version of the Sixers without Embiid, or
Orlando for sure.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, you hope for Orlando. You probably don't hope for Charlotte because Charlotte's a team that they're probably not going to beat you in the first round, but they might run you out of the gym a couple games. You might have to go 6 or 7 to beat Charlotte.
Make it work harder. Yep.
Exactly. Miami is kind of coming apart in some ways at the seams. Like, they've never really had it together on the offensive side this year, besides maybe one night.
Ever since Jimmy Butler left.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're still a contender, a back-end contender. I mean, they're still well coached. But when you see a team that we associate with defensive principles giving up 147 points in a game to the Celtics, at some point you say, okay, well, I don't think it's Miami's year. And at some point you might say it's not Miami's year when you look at the roster and realize, wow, I don't know, but 3 or 4 players on this whole entire roster, and I watch basketball every single day. So you hope for a little luck. I think it's flexible if you're the Pistons, who you want in the first round. Okay. But I think you'd love to get the Magic in that first round. So we'll see what happens. But they desperately need Cade back because their ceiling without him is probably the second round, and their ceiling with him is playing into June because it's going to be a huge matchup. If Cade's healthy, it'll be a huge matchup if there's no upset between the Pistons and the Celtics, potentially in the third round. So there's no guarantees because you got the Knicks. You got teams on the horizon. Cleveland's still out there. I know people. Yeah. I know we're going to talk about Cleveland, but you need Cade back. I don't even know why we have to do this topic because it's obvious. You need Cade back if you're Detroit.
All right, so Matthew, let's look at this. So with their 6-2 record without him, it's pretty impressive on the surface, right? But let's dig a little bit deeper, a little bit more into it, right? So let's look at the 2 losses. One was an overtime to the Hawks, and then the other one was a tight one with the Thunder, which that really just blew my mind, showing the ceiling what they can do without him. So Cade was averaging 25 and 9 assists before he went down, and Detroit's half-court offense becomes a completely different animal, like you said, when he's running it. So the key question is conditioning, Matthew. So a collapsed lung isn't like a soft tissue or bruise, right? Coming back rusting game 1 of a playoff is like a real risk. And you'd rather, have him struck for round 2 than limping around in round number 1. What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting. I think it depends on who you get. I'm trying to look up the standings right now. It's not quite coming up for me, but I think you
touched on it. If you got Orlando, you're gonna love it, right? Leave him out. But if you got Charlotte, you definitely might have to throw him in there.
I think it could be on a case-by-case basis. You could be going against any of them. Who's there right now? I see. Oh, Toronto has fallen to 7. So that's going to be interesting, that little battle between Philly and Toronto to stay out of the play-in. They're both at 42 and 34. So
definitely don't want Charlotte and New York. Definitely don't want neither one of them.
Man, I think you don't
I mean Charlotte and Sixers is what I meant to say, not New York.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Sixers, it depends. Because in theory, you don't want the Sixers if it's Maxey, Embiid, and Paul George. But if Embiid's injured and Paul George maybe's injured or somebody else gets injured, you never know. You might want the Sixers depending on what version of the Sixers shows up. But let's say they're healthy. You don't want the Sixers. You probably don't want Toronto. I mean, we know Toronto can play ball. They got some players out there. They got Brandon Ingram. They got Scotty Barnes. You know, they got a good young core. We saw them go on a 31-0 run against Orlando the other day. I know it's Orlando. I know they're struggling. I think the team you really want is Orlando. But
right.
any of these teams, you can test it out. You can say game 1, we're holding Cade out. Okay, if you win game 1, game 2, we're holding Cade out. You win game 2, even if you lose game 3, you know, you could work to get him back by game 4, game 5, but you just do it on a case-by-case basis. Because if you lose game 1, then right away you're thinking, okay, when can Cade come back? Can he come back now? Or does it have to be, you know, whenever? But you do yourself a favor if you get a good matchup, which, you know, is not really up to them, but also if you come out and win game 1. And really, if you really defend home court and win the first 2 games, you potentially can give Cade a rest for the whole first round. So it's kind of up to the team to just come out and take care of business at home, and then potentially Cade can get some more time to rest and recuperate.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So with that, we're going to move on to topic number 5. DeMar DeRozan, your boy, passed Dominique Wilkins for 17th on the all-time NBA scoring list last night with 26,688 career points. And the only fitting way to do it was with a 3-pointer. The shot he became famous for not taking for most of his career, right? So he finished with 28 on a perfect 12 for 12 from the foul line in Toronto, where he spent his first 9 seasons. So Matthew, where does DeRozan rank when it's all said and done among the most underrated scorers in the NBA?
I mean, so I've watched DeMar and admired DeMar for a long time. He was on the Spurs for 3 years. It wasn't the best version of the Spurs, so like, you know, these weren't necessarily playoff teams. But watching DeMar, watching how he cooks, watching how he gets into the office and gets that mid range going. And then, of course, I've watched him this year because Westbrook, my guy, is on the Kings. So I've watched the Kings this year. He is right up there with anybody in terms of shooting that mid-range shot. But not only shooting it, because I know everybody knows, like, DeMar for, you know, he gets that mid-range, he doesn't miss. But also just his footwork and how nifty he is in the mid-range game and how he does fadeaways and step-throughs, and until you've like watched him for a full season, you wouldn't realize how extensive his bag is. You don't really think of DeMar and think of like, oh, he's got a huge bag, but he really does. His footwork and his dribbling at that mid elbow, like, you know, 14 to 18 feet out. And even sometimes they're so scared of his jump shot that really he does that spin and step through where he ends up getting some, you know, 4-foot finger rolls, some little creative layups that aren't quite in layup range, but they end up looking like layups just based on where he is because of his footwork. He really has some of the best footwork in the league. You know, I was going to say most underrated, but I would really say some of the best, because once he gets you in the air, you know, he's still making moves sometimes to get closer to the cup. Like, he has this beautiful little spin and step through where he loses the defender, and then it starts as a mid-range shot, but by the time it ends, it ends up being like a little 4-foot runner finger roll looking thing. He can do a whole lot of different things out there. And
throw his IQ in there too, because his IQ at his age is really helping him. Like you said, those beautiful things you see, it's his IQ.
High IQ, beautiful footwork. And then that mid-range, when he really has it going and he pulls up from 14 to 20, it's just like every time it's going in. And sometimes it doesn't matter how good the defense is or how weird of a contested fadeaway he just took. It's just once he gets to his spot, as Mark Jones calls it, once he checks into the office, once he checks into that office, you just know it's buckets, buckets, buckets. It could be a little frustrating in the three-point era because mostly he's giving you 2-pointers. He can be a little bit of a ball stopper. I've seen, you know, some of like the team basketball in Sacramento turn into a lot of DeMar ISO, Zach LaVine ISO, DeMar ISO. Even my boy Russ calling his own number. So, you know, sometimes his playing style can lead to a lack of maybe spreading the wealth team cohesion, when DeMar is really locked in on getting his own shot, the ball does tend to stop with DeMar. But that's the only little knock I can say, because it really is incredible watching him operate. I mean, it really is a pleasure, because it really is just like watching like just a true hooper, just like a true bucket.
Right.
And I get it. He's not necessarily on the 2026 wave of, he's just hitting corner threes and, always like, I get that to be a star in this league, it feels like you got to make 5 3-pointers or whatever. And that's not his game and never been his game. But I mean, if you put him on any like street court in America, you put him at any pickup game, any 24-hour fitness, like, you put not him, because obviously he's an NBA player, but you put that kind of play style, you would say, okay, this is like basketball at its truest form. The way like he's just working to get that bucket every time, the way he's working to get that best shot.
And Matthew, let me ask you this, and statistically, right? Back in the day, way back in the NBA days, right? Wasn't it more statistically better to shoot a mid-range that you would hit it versus the three and other things, the closer you are?
Well, I think they've factored it in now that if you can make the three at like 35% or whatever the number is, then it's more worthwhile to take the three, because.
But how many people are doing it at that percentage, though?
Well, a lot more now. More now. And unfortunately not DeMar, and unfortunately not my boy Westbrook. So, it could be a little difficult for the Kings because they're not matching that 3-point firepower. But these guys are such legends that even on that rare night, they really get it going. Even when they're not matching 3-point firepower, there's still so much incredible things they can do.
Right.
And when you see him out there, when you see him get the ball at the elbow and look to get a bucket, I mean, it's really a spectacular thing to watch. So shout out DeMar. I think watching him play, obviously he's not in his prime anymore, but he's still very, very, very good. It's going to be hard for him to catch on with top-level playoff teams just because what his skill set is and how he's ball dominant. He needs the ball. He doesn't shoot the three-pointer. So it's going to be hard for him to catch on with teams that already have another star player, like most of the playoff teams. So I don't know that he's ever going to perform at his prime level on a competing team. But based on how good he is this year, I mean, he should still have another 2, 3, 4 seasons in the league. And so I think we can anticipate him moving way up that list. I think, by the time it's all said and done, maybe we're talking about top 10 all time in scoring for DeMar.
And looking at that list, listen, so he passed Dominique Wilkins. He's passed Paul Pierce. He's passed Reggie Miller. He's passed Patrick Ewing. Like, listen, the list that he's passed, the company that he's in, bro, that's saying something.
Yeah, and at his age, the fact that he's played the most games on the Kings. So really age is no issue because he's the league leader. I mean, he's the team leader in games for the Kings. And you look at that, 49% from the field, 52% from 2. And it's crazy that he's shooting that from 2 when you consider so many of his shots.
You said 52%?
52%.
52%. Bruh, you're making, bruh, that's great.
And he's shooting them. He's not. Most of those aren't at the rim. Most of those are shots.
Those are mid-range.
So I mean, he's really putting in work. He's healthy to be playing the most games on the Kings. So you factor in, 19 points a game times 80, and you say, can he do that 3-4 more seasons? Well, I think he could probably do it at least 2 or 3 more seasons. And you see some expansion for DeMar on that list. I mean, he's going to pass Oscar Robertson like within a game or two. He's only 22 points away. So, so I mean, top 15 for sure, and probably top 10 by the time it's all said and done, both him and Westbrook.
Yeah, all right, there you have it. All right, fans, we're going to move on to topic number 6. With roughly 8 games left in the regular season, SGA sits at minus 350 to win MVP. Wemby is close to plus 250, and Luka is stuck at plus 1,500, despite putting up historic scoring numbers, right? Draymond Green said publicly that Wemby would need a 70-point game or a quadruple double to steal it from SGA at this point. Matthew, is SGA the right choice, or is a voter sleeping on what Wemby is doing on both ends? I know we talked about this earlier, but touch a little bit more on it and more in detail.
They are sleeping on Wemby. They are
Okay.
asleep. I mean, I feel like people have already punched their ballot. I feel like people already got it filled out for SGA. So it does feel like an uphill battle for Wemby. And you watch SGA, he passes the eyeball test. He's incredible. He passes the clutch test. He's hit so many game winners. But it's hard because if he doesn't make the shot, he's going to draw the foul. And, although they started to call him for that push off. I don't know if you've been seeing that.
Yeah. Hey, he was the other day. He was like, "What? I can't believe it!" Like it's almost like I've been doing this. Now you want to call it?
So if they're gonna ref him like that, then things could get interesting because
it's too late now.
You can't underestimate how much that's a part of his bag. Now he's a great player. He can shoot the three. He can get to the cup. He can play make. He can do whatever. So I'm not saying he can't do everything. But that's a huge part of his game, getting to the free throw line. And if the refs all of a sudden are calling that push off, or maybe they're holding the whistle on some of his flops, like even 10% to 20% more than they are now, I mean, that's a huge difference because...
But Matthew, I will say this. I'm going to let you continue. Bro, do you know how many point guards and shooting guards I see pushing off these days? Like, it's almost happened religiously how often it happens.
No, it's happening, but I mean, he's kind of at the forefront of that movement, and he's bigger than most point guards. He's a tall ass guy. I mean, he's probably like 6'6" or 6'7", and so
let me see how tall he is.
Pushing off to create range makes more of a difference than Fred VanVleet or some like regular size point guard pushing off you.
6'6", 6'5", 6'6".
I mean,
195 pounds.
He gets significant separation on some of those push-offs. And then he's pushing off. Then when you try to recover, he moves his airspace into you or you foul him. So it's almost become impossible to stop because, I mean, you look at the numbers. We're talking about what DeMar shooting from two. SGA shooting 60% from two on 15 two-point shots a game. Now, a lot more of that's at the rim than DeMar, but 60% is crazy. But I think that's a little bit inflated because of how often he gets to the line. But 60% from two, holy shit. I mean, that's got to be, I guess that's not some record because of big men, you think there's big men there that are just slam dunking it every time. But to be a guard shooting 60% from two, but like I say, well, what would that be if he didn't get all the calls? Maybe that'd be 56, 57, still impressive. But Wemby, I just watched him again last night. I have not seen a Spurs game in weeks where they didn't just completely put belt to ass on the team they played. I have not seen the Spurs. I can't remember the last time I saw the Spurs play a close game. Okay, I'm lying. It was Phoenix. It was at 101 to 100 game in Phoenix. But besides that game, I cannot remember the last time I saw the Spurs play a close game. And it all starts with Wemby, the leader who legitimately is making everybody on the team better, because he plays with a seriousness and a dedication to his craft that I think is contagious and is lifting up everyone around him. And look, if you're a voter, I would just say this: give it to SGA at your own peril, because we're all going to see what happens in May. And if Wemby, if some finds a way to get past SGA, and you, the voter, already gave it to SGA, as your MVP choice, as we know that the MVP voting happens before the playoffs. I think I think it'll be interesting because I think we'll have a record of who valued what, and depending on who comes out on top when they meet in the playoffs. And I feel very confident that those two teams aren't getting knocked off. So we're going to have a record of what happened. And so just vote for SGA.
Matthew, I'll say this. Here's what makes this race genuinely hard, right? If you isolate any single skill, right? So Luka scores the most, Wemby defends the best, SGA is the most efficient on both ends, but the award has become a referendum to a team record, and OKC at 60-plus wins is just hard to argue against. So the number that keeps coming up in voter circles is SGA's net rating. So the Thunder are like plus 12 with him on the floor and basically a lottery team when he sits. So that's the same argument that wins MVPs. And right now, nobody's making a counter argument strong enough to really flip it.
I mean, we could talk about SGA's wins and rating, but I'd like to see Wemby's rating because I think that's a whole different team, especially defensively when he's off the court. I'm pretty sure it's a similar level of impact on the rating. But
But you touched on it earlier. Remember earlier in our conversation, you talked about it seemed like it always goes to the team that has the number one lead and the most wins. You
hey,
talked on that earlier.
Spurs are right behind them. Or
Yeah,
if OKC's got 60 wins, the Spurs got 58. So
yeah,
there's still 7 games to go in the regular season. Spurs are about
right.
to play in 30 minutes. I mean,
Yeah,
this is still anybody's race in the West. OKC's only 2
sure.
games ahead. So are you telling me that if OKC loses 3 and the Spurs win the next 3 and the Spurs are on top,
You
that
got a
makes
valid
Wemby the
argument.
MVP?
Yeah, and that's the way they doing it. So yeah, he
Hey,
would pass them up and get it there.
it's coming down to the wire. But if you give the Spurs, if they find a way to get the 1 seed and have home court advantage, I'd be
It's
very
over.
scared if I was the Thunder. I'm not saying it's over. I'm just saying I'd be very scared because the Spurs went 4-1 against the Thunder in the regular season. I was trying to explain this to somebody. The Thunder only have 16 losses. 4 of those came to the Spurs, and 3 of those were total belt to ass, not even close. So if Wemby and them boys find a way in these next 7 games to get that 1 seed and get home court advantage, then I would be very afraid if I was SGA and them boys.
All right, as the famous words of boxers, they say, "Yeah, you might have got the best of me in sparring, but when it comes to the real fight, it's totally different."
And let's see what happens. And let's see who's bringing home court advantage of that real fight. That's why these next 6 games, what's going to be interesting is the Spurs and Thunder are so far ahead of everybody, but they're not going to be able to rest their starters if they're trying to finish with the 1 seed. So I think they're going to have to play their guys until the very last regular season game, if not maybe the second to last regular season game. So it's going to be interesting to see how that race for the 1 seed comes down.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Matthew, let's end it with this last topic number 7. I just saw this post before we got started for our podcast. Donovan Mitchell admits that the Cavs elite food program was part of why he re-signed his $150 million extension. Let me read what he says. I talked about the basketball stuff, right? But part of why I re-signed here is when you have a team that, and it's not BS food either. It's like top of the top chefs making it in front of you. It's like gluten free, dairy free. It's like all the right stuff that you can give your body. So when you have a team that believes in nutrition as much as they believe in medical and what you do on the floor, I think it shows the mindset of an organization. You know what this kind of puts me in mind of, Matthew? I don't know, was it 7, 8, 10 years ago? I don't know if it was Dirk and the others or whoever came after. Maybe it was Luka. Whoever came, they said, "Man, what was it you loved about being here in Dallas?" Oh man, Mark Cuban put video game PlayStations all in our locker room. We get to play all the time. They treat us like stars here. I'm like, man, y'all got millions of dollars and y'all happy about having PlayStations in the locker room. But this is totally different. But it just kind of makes you think about that. But Matthew, I agree with Donovan Mitchell, right? Let's look at this. How many times in the last 3 or 4 years we talked about people ask LeBron James, how do you do so well? How do you be almost 40 and you're just at an elite level? He said, man, I spend over $1 million a year in my own personal chef. He's with me all the time. I'm eating the right food. And I think this is contributing why I have longevity. So in Donovan Mitchell's mind, if they're paying these top chefs to give them whether home or on the road, and you can have the best meals for your body, do you agree? If you can get an extra, he said, I got $150 million extension, right? But if you can make an extra 160, 170, a million, like extra 10, 20 million a year, does it really matter when you already a multimillionaire? You can already have your own chef, or you can just bring them for your personal use?
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising
Or
to
is it about
me.
the culture? Or is it about the culture itself?
I mean, I don't know. It's surprising to me to hear this because I would think all NBA teams would have like
Yeah,
A+ level chef and
absolutely.
nutrition teams. Like the idea that like the reason Donovan Mitchell re-signed with the Cavs is because he liked the chef,
That's what he said.
So something about that just seems a little odd to me. because you would think. I mean, maybe it's just the
It's more
quality.
don't look so much at the chef. It's how much the organization cares about the players.
I mean, he
They,
was in Utah though. They don't put seasoning on nothing. It was probably tough out there in Utah, man. So
so are you saying Zion would have done better if he was signed 5 years ago to Cleveland?
Zion would have done better in Utah because there's nothing over there you want to eat, and maybe Donovan Mitchell is testament to that. But Zion went to the worst place for him, New Orleans. They say they see him on Bourbon Street
Beignets,
all night
gumbo.
filling up that gumbo bowl. But I don't know. It's surprising for me to hear this about Donovan Mitchell, just because I just feel like if not all the NBA teams, I feel like all the major contenders would just have top notch health and nutrition. But hey, when sometimes we can be creatures of habit and like just get into a routine and we love it. Maybe he just found something he liked in Cleveland, and you just sometimes like you start doing something at work, and like one day you get there and maybe the binder you use for some certain work task is moved or something's moved and it breaks your routine, and or like there's like random things like we'll see in the workplace where we start to use it as a crutch and we say, oh, I can't imagine my work without this thing. Or, we have things at home where maybe there's a certain thing in the house that you never move because that's the spot where it has to be.
Right.
And maybe, there's people over there in Cleveland for him that's like, these are how it has to be. These are the people that have to be here.
Yeah.
And you get to that level by having a routine. And so maybe he just considers some people in the Cleveland culinary staff, I don't know what you call
Yeah.
it, just
Yeah.
essential to his routine. And it's become like locked into where they're all good, but they're always looking for that extra edge. And maybe he feels that the
Yeah.
program they got them on is that little extra edge. And
Yeah.
obviously something's going right there because in Cleveland, he's put up the most points of his career. He's had the
True.
best
Okay.
shooting numbers of his career. He went from like a star to like a borderline MVP candidate in Cleveland.
Right.
So he was
Yeah.
already a star in Utah, but now he's more like an MVP type player. And
Yeah.
so, if what he thinks is giving him that extra edge is like the culinary and training people in Cleveland, then, more power to him. Don't mess up his routine.
And Matthew, to touch on your point a little bit, I think that other NBA teams are feeding the guys good. I think they might be giving them the best steaks, the potatoes, all the good foods, right? But it doesn't mean it's the right nutritional food to put in your body to make you a lean, mean working machine to keep that energy going.
In San Antonio, we giving them enchiladas and puffy tacos and churros.
So was Wemby not eat none of it because he ain't picked up no weight?
Hey, he's got that he's got the opposite of Zion's metabolism. He's got that Brandon Ingram metabolism.
Exactly. Listen, sports fans, basketball fans, man, we appreciate you coming out, supporting us. We thank for everybody that came on the live. Listen, do not be afraid to put something in the comment section. Whatever you want to chime on, whatever you want to say. We had one person last week that obliterated Matthew talking about his Spurs weren't going to make it. Listen, whatever mean comments you want to say to Matthew, drop them in there. We'll make sure we'll post it on the screen.
And then I'll make sure to get that address and track you down.
With that being said, man, we appreciate y'all coming out. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Keep checking us out on every Monday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. As long as Matthew gets off work in time, which he has been lately. But listen, keep checking us out, man. We appreciate all the love and support. And we will read your comments on Monday, right? We wanted to build up. So you got all weekend to comment on our videos, and we will read it on Monday night. Until next time, Matthew, anything you want to say to the fans?
We'll see you on Monday. Be nice in that comment section.
There you have it. Till next time, me and Matthew, we signing out.